All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to another episode of Real Raw Relationships Unfiltered, where we get real and raw about every single relationship in your life. Today's guest is a powerhouse of purpose, someone who doesn't just talk about living on assignment, he actually walks it. We're talking about Pastor Henry. I'm gonna butcher your last name, so we're just gonna leave it at Pastor Henry N. Is a speaker, spiritual mentor, and leader who teaches people how to live intentionally, not just religiously. He's got the kind of presence that basically makes you pause, breathe, and ask yourself, am I really living or am I just existing on this planet? So in a world obsessed with hustle, performance, and shiny goals, Pastor Henry brings it back to the soul. This isn't about chasing clout, it's about chasing calling. And today, we're stripping away the surface stuff to ask some raw, uncomfortable, but necessary questions about what it really means to live a life with purpose. So if you're ready to get real, get raw, then let's go!
Welcome to the carnival, I'm the ringleader now. Won't hear a sound at all as I bury you 6 feet underground.
Hello! How you doing today?
Hello. I'd say I was flattered by all the nice things you said about me, but there's a lot of it that is true, so I'm not going to be flattered.
You can be flattered with the fact that it's true.
Well, that's true.
So tell our guests, now I know I talked to you, but I really want to everybody to get kind of a picture of who you are, what you do. So give us a little background.
Well, so Angela, it's so kind of you to have me on your show.
Thank you.
Last time when we talked, I found you very intriguing. I found your dimension and purpose and direction and personality a little very how do I say it? It was summer in the winter season, so it brought so much light. That was fun. That was fun talking with you.
Well, tell me more.
There you go.
Just kidding. And then
and I really enjoyed it, and I was looking forward to this because I like how raw, how real, how open, how vulnerable you want to be with the things you do and the things you want to bring people to understand and to hear. So I was really looking forward to it. I think we spent almost 1 hour, but it was just for nothing. It was just preparatory. And
I was like, man, why didn't I record this? I should have recorded this so I could hear this. I was trying to tell my fiance about you. I was like, man, he had so many really good points and he was just going a mile a minute. And I was like, and I didn't record it.
Yeah. But my name is Henry. I taught you to pronounce my last name last time. The first N is silent, so you say Nwaneri. So if you say winery, I'll get drunk because I think of the wineries. So just say Nwaneri, and that will be good. I'm from Nigeria. I'm a Canadian citizen. I've lived in Canada for almost 40 years. I pastor the church in Canada, and then handed it over to my associates, and then I started traveling. And in the past 20 years, I've traveled quite a bit. I've been collecting miles and all the credit. I think I've been to about 62 countries now. Wow. With the things I do. So presently I just came back to Canada, and I'm going to be in Canada for a few more days before I head back to the States. I've published several books, and I told you last time I'm a singer. I play some instruments, and it's the kind of music I love. And I just released my first album, which is on Apple's and on YouTube and everywhere. So if you just search Henry on Apple, Henry Nwaneri, you'll find my songs, but they are very unique kind of songs. So you better get ready for my uniqueness when you want to listen to my songs. I speak in 3 areas. I try not to be a jack of all, but there are 3 areas I speak apart from, of course, being a pastor. I speak about Christianity, about religion, about the Bible. But 2 other areas are very dear to me. The area of the purpose of man, the purpose of being, how to excel, how to come to the place of Zen with your life and your goals and your being, your relationship, your way of making money and all of that. That's the first thing I like to talk about. The next one I love to talk about is relationships, and how the dynamics of relationships are changing, and how we are supposed to be um, emotionally intelligent, with high emotional IQs, to be able to adapt to the ever-changing dynamics of relationship. And those are the three areas that you'll find I've written books on. I have 55 books I've written. I have some of them here with me, but I ran out, so I have to order more, because wherever I travel, I order my books, and I have someone sell them for me, but I ran out, so I have to order some more, and I don't know whether to ship them here to Canada or ship them to my house in the US. But
You
I
can
look
just
forward to
ship
your,
them to me, man. Just ship them to
yeah.
me.
But I look forward to your questions, and I want to bring some intriguing, intimate dimensions of this discussion to your listeners.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And I'm very excited to ask you. So let's cut through the fluff then. Okay. I want to know, how do you actually know when you're walking on purpose? Is there like some kind of sign, or are you just doing what looks right or feels safe? How do you actually, in your understanding, know that you're living with purpose?
The way people generally calculate or figure out if they are living in on purpose or living with purpose is different from the way I'm learning, and I'm doing a lot of research now. Hopefully I can bring out the things I find out and see if they make sense to the world. But when the general accepted standard gives you three ways of figuring out if you're living in purpose. The first way to figure out if you're living in purpose is if you are accomplishing the things that are on your checklist. You know, if you're not accomplishing them, then you're not living with purpose. That's one way people try and figure out, or that's how they tell you to figure out if you're living with purpose. You may have a checklist of things, and so this starts from the fact that for you to have a purpose, you need to understand the purpose and the mini goals that add up to your purpose. So every mini goal you accomplish takes you a step closer to your purpose, and takes you a step into your purpose. And each mini goal becomes a feather on your hat that shows that you are walking in purpose. Another way people one of the other ways I've learned, a lot of people say you can figure out if you're living in purpose, is that there is a method to your madness, so to say.
Yes.
There's a method to your life. There's an organization, there's a structure, and there is a mind, there's a calculated goal. This is what I want to do. This is this, so that's how you know you're living in purpose. But I want to bring a new dimension to it, something that I've been thinking about and I've written a book on as well. And I asked a simple question. How about if you have all of those? How about if you are accomplishing something, and then every day you see organization in your life, you see purpose, you have a checkboard, you have a purpose board or a goals board, and every day you check off something that you're doing, but you're not living in the right purpose for your life.
Yes.
How would
Yes.
you reconcile that? And so I add a few more dimensions to how to know you're living in purpose. They are not on their own individually. They don't stand a chance of being a point of how to prove you're living in purpose, but you kind of have to look at them in context and together. Then it makes more point. So the first one is, there's a sense of satisfaction. One of the things that will give you an inner sign that you're not just living with purpose, but you're living with a purpose that is congruent, is in simpatico with your inner being, is that you feel a sense of satisfaction. You feel a sense of peace. There is, it's like the storm does not determine your peace, because you're doing something you love. It's like a missionary who gets on a boat and the boat does not have an engine. It has to be paddled, and he has to cross the Atlantic from America to Africa. And it's a 3 month journey. It's in a stormy weather, and the food you eat is you catch a fish and find a place on the boat and roast it, and it's not fully roasted, and you eat it, and you have to salt it by boiling the water and waiting for the salt to condensate from the water you boil, and then that's how you salt your fish, and that's how you eat it without any sauce, no gravy, no ketchup, no mayonnaise, just raw fish with pure salt from the Atlantic Ocean. And you save your morsel of bread and you take 2 bites of it every day for 3 months. And they do it again and again and again. So if the storms of life shake your feelings towards your drive in purpose, then you weren't really comfortable with that purpose. That wasn't your purpose. When you are on the path of your purpose, there's this sense of overwhelming satisfaction that even the storms can shake. You know, you would be the only one paddling a boat when everybody is rocking it, because you want to go somewhere on that boat. That's how purpose
that drive.
That's one other thing you use to figure out purpose. The other thing about purpose is to know that you're living in good purpose is you don't only accomplish things, but you accomplish you. You measure yourself and say, hey, I am better today than I was yesterday.
Yes.
I'm a better person. I handle my demons. I beat my demons better than I did yesterday. I handle my issues better than I did yesterday. And again, it's not about money. It's not about affluence. It's not about wealth. It's not about people around you. It's about just the inner feeling of knowing that you are a better person today than you were yesterday. That's one way you know that you're walking in purpose. Stephen Covey used to say this, that when you have a drive, your drive drives you, but there are times that you have to drive your drive. And I have learned that one of my drives, personally, is the better me. Mm-hmm. And when you have a drive that is inside, not outside, the tendency is your yardsticks, your milestones are internal, they are not external. And people can look at you from outside and say, what have you done? Who are you? What are you doing that you can say you've accomplished in life? But they can't see, or they won't see the inner milestones. They won't see the inner signs that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Because you're a better person. That's why so many rich people still have all the problems they have. And sometimes the greatest manifestation of the chaos that is in the lives of very people that we think are very accomplished is their children. They come out with all the chaos. They have worked hard. Those people have worked so hard to get to where they are. So there's a kind of taming. They can tame themselves and they don't easily manifest those things. But their children or the people around them can't, because they've inherited all of the wealth. They didn't go through the discipline of getting there. So they just explode. That's why sometimes it's very difficult to be a self-accomplished person if you are the child of a very accomplished person. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So,
no, it does. It definitely does. I know my daughter told me that one time, because she would get really, I think I told you briefly, but my kids have a lot of trauma. And so my daughter would do that. She would get so stressed out and have these meltdowns. And I'd be like, what the fuck is going on with her? Like, there's so much trauma in her family. And so to me, I'm like, okay, I get it. But at some point, when are we going to work on this? How are we going to work on this? How are we going to stop spiraling? And then she told me, she said, I'm never going to be good enough for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, girl, Girl, it just blew me. I was like, is she serious? Do you really think I have it all together? Because I'm a shit show. I have no idea what I'm doing 90% of the time. I had my years of being, the missionary, and then I did a drug dealer, and then I was married to a guy that abused me. Like, so many different dynamics of my life. And so to me, I'm looking at it as like, are you serious? But what we see is oftentimes when we don't, like you said, the purposeful living, it's we don't see what all we're doing because we're not living the purposeful life that we are supposed to live. Like me having my nursing degree, I felt empty still. And it wasn't until I realized everybody else wanted me to be a nurse. They all wanted me to be a nurse. I was so good at it. I could have been a doctor and this and that. And I was like, but when I sat down, I quit my job and I was like, I need to change things up. And I made all kinds of money, but I just wasn't happy. And I sat down and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I started going again, right? And then I broke my foot and I was literally sitting there. I sat there jobless, Henry. I sat there jobless. I sat there with no idea what I was going to do. And I was like, this is a sign. This is a sign that I need to sit here. I can wallow or I can sit here and just redefine my entire path. What do I want? And then slowly but surely, literally, everything started coming into play. And every time I've started saying, okay, I just can't do this. I can't, it's too stressful. Something else comes in the way, and then something else. And then I start seeing people come in and they say, I can't believe that you've done this. And I heard this. I can't believe you said that. That was so impactful. And it's just those little things, right, Henry? But that just kind of remind you. So I wanted to ask you, because if we had all the time in the world, we could just go on and on. But I wanted to ask you what goes through your mind, because I know, and if you say you don't, I know you do, right? Because we all go through it. Those moments when we think, what the hell are we doing? Right? Like even now, like wake up. What do you do when you wake up in the morning and you're like, you have those mornings where you're like, is this really what I'm doing? Like, am I good enough to do this?
Yeah. Let me redefine that question in this way.
Okay.
Sometimes the next milestone is a small milestone, but it's very far away. And sometimes the next milestone is a big milestone. And it could be far, it could be close. By that, let me explain it. The next milestone is always when you have to drive far to get to the next milestone, you expect that you are driving to a major milestone. You're driving to a place that is going to be, either a watershed or a turning point or a major event or place in your journey, in your purpose, But sometimes you could travel for years in your life and your purpose, and you're only going to a minor milestone in your life. And that's what you're talking about. You wake up on some of those days, because when you wake up and you're driving towards, you're conscious and aware that your next milestone is a major one. When every day you wake up, the thing about it is you will see it, but there's a distance to get to it. Every day you wake up, you see it. That's big milestones. But when you wake up and you don't see the milestones, that's a minor milestone. And you just keep driving. Sometimes you ask yourself, am I sure I'm on the right path? And the GPS tells you, yes, this is the way to it. But you still have like 50 miles to go. And you keep going 50 miles, 10 miles, 15, 20. And you're like, are you sure this is the right path? You wake up some mornings and what am I doing? You get tired. And the funny thing about it is this, that we can make the mistake of jettisoning or what's the word I'm looking, of overlooking the days we are journeying towards minor milestones and prefer to invest our lives in chasing major milestones. And the problem is this, that the journey to a major place is always marked by minor milestones along the path. So
Yes.
a lot of the milestones we overlook or we don't engage in become journeys that take away from our accomplishment when we get to a major milestone. So every day when I wake up and I'm in that place where I feel, darn it, what is really going on? I remind myself, this is a minor milestone ahead. And the thing about minor milestone, the way you go to it is different from the way you go to a major milestone. And I'm trying to be very pictorial and analytical so it makes sense to you. You know, imagine if you're flying or you're riding a boat, you can see where you're going to, but they say it takes you 20 minutes to get there. So those 20 minutes will be you looking at the structure of where you're going. Wow, look at that. Wow. It's a scenic route to a major milestone. You know, you're engaged in it. You know, as you come closer, it looks bigger. You see the windows, you see every structure in the building, you know, and stuff like that. That's how it is. But when you're driving to a milestone that you can't see, the funny thing about it is you've got to wake up every morning, every moment, and tell yourself it is a necessary journey. That's number one.
Remind yourself.
Yes. Then number two, you have got to be prepared that when you get there, the whole thing looks like nothing.
Yes. Yes.
It looks like, I mean, did I come all this way for nothing?
Right. Right.
And if you don't record and register the stupid nuances of life, or what do I call it? The mundane things of that minor milestone, if you don't record it and learn from it, if you do, and that's a big if you do get to a major milestone, it will be like having a degree in mathematics without understanding how to do addition and subtraction.
Yeah.
Your final personality and purpose in life is accomplished by your mastering of very minor things. Hey, can I say this? If for the next 20 years you don't see a major milestone in your life, but you keep accomplishing minor milestones, you're going to be a great person. A lot of professors employ people who master minor milestones, but who never master big things. They get ghostwriters to write their book. They get ghost voices to sing their songs. They borrow surrogates to donate their eggs or donate their semen. In life, people who have mastered minor milestones are the most qualified to enter or to reach major milestones. But then the journey of life is always different. Sometimes some people who don't accomplish much or who don't see minor milestones, they get to big places, and then those who, it's like some people are destined to travel 2 more minor milestones before a major milestone than some others. So when you wake up, just tell yourself this is the journey, and even if it is to a minor milestone, it's to a great place, ultimately.
I love that. I love that. And, you know, I've had to do that many a times in this process. When I first started my business, what I did was I sat there and I visualized where I wanted to be 5 years from now. So I sat there and I got descriptive. I said, what did the house that I want to be in, what did that look like? What kind of clients did I want? And I had no idea what I was going to do, Henry. I was literally like, I have no idea the path I'm going to take, but I'm going to go forward, right? And it clicked. I remember visualizing a woman coming up to me and saying that I was able to change her life because she could finally feel her feelings and be okay with them again.
Wow.
And that to me was like, like you said, it's not about the money. It's not about all that. It is about the journey, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the very first time that it happened in real life, and I was told that I helped a woman save her marriage because she started communicating effectively, and she was actually intentionally communicating, right? So she wasn't just communicating to talk, she was communicating to speak and listen, right? To be
Mm.
heard and to take in what they are trying to convey so that they could actually connect on a deeper level. And I remember her telling me that and tears going in my eyes because I was like, this is what I do this for. And since then, I've had people ask me, well, all those wonderful marketing, they're like, hey, would you like me to help you with this? Would you like us to do this? And I'm like, no, I am so happy where I'm at. And I'm not, I'm not making 10 figures. I'm not making, all the money, but every time somebody tells me that they are allowing themselves to feel their feelings, or they're allowed to have emotions, or they can actually communicate with their daughter or their son or even their mother, that right there hits me. And it's basically like my fire, right? It like lights me on fire, and I'm like ready to go again. I'm like, yeah. So I try to read those before I do every podcast. I try to read little comments that people say, because it's like, okay, this is why I do it. I don't do it to make money. I don't do it for this. I do it for these little wins. So that's really like it's amazing how somebody that has this different background than me, that has written all these books, that is on this path, it's amazing how you can find somebody that understands things the way that you understand them, because that is amazing. There's billions of people on the planet. I mean, not it's so funny to
Yeah.
me when people are like, no, you've got to think like I do. No, you've got to do this. And it's like, no, no. But I love your mind and how you think about this. Now, what I know we gotta wrap up soon, but what do you think is the hardest when you're doing those mini goals? What do you think is the hardest for you? I know me, it's like if I don't look back consistently and see what work I've done, whether it's something small or big, whatever, I tend to lose sight, right? So what would you say to that?
So let me just rattle off a few things. The first one is no journey is wasted. Let me be a little bit spiritual now as a pastor. Um, we tell Christians to trust God to be the author and the finisher of your journey. And one of the things that happens to you when you're on a journey is that you've got to learn to trust that you are not being tossed by winds, and you're not just on any track. You are on a specific track because somebody wants you on that track, and God has a purpose for you on that track.
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example in the Bible. Recently, I wrote a song, and the inspiration of the song was thinking about Joseph, who all his life he grew up dreaming that he was going to be a royalty, or something would happen that his father, his mother, and his 10 other brothers would bow to him. 11 other brothers, I beg your pardon, would all bow to him. And it wasn't once, at least twice. And then the strange thing, his father felt something about it and gave him a coat of many colors. So he grew up with this sense of, I'm going to be somebody in life. What do you think he thought of when he found himself at the bottom of a pit?
Oh, he was like, I was lied to.
What do you think he thought of when he found himself in a prison?
Yeah.
You see, but you don't ever see Joseph doubting his journey. So one of the hardest things you can do to yourself is doubt your journey. There is no fun in a journey if you doubt that you're supposed to be on that journey.
I love that.
The moment you accept every journey you find yourself, it changes the first thing it can change. The first thing it changes is the fact that the destination becomes a vital part of your purpose. If you don't enjoy traveling to a place, when you get to the place, unless it's a major thing, like you travel from where to maybe Dubai, and you're looking at Wiz Khalifa, and you're looking at all these beautiful skyscrapers, and a robot comes to tell you, hey, shift, you're too close to the road, because they have robots that do that for you now, and stuff like that. And unless something wows you at the destination, you really never enjoy the destination. But if you enjoy the journey, then the destination is a part of the journey, not an expectation.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. If you can stop fighting the journey and start enjoying your journey, it changes a lot for you. It makes you a better student. It makes you a better person, because you're entrenching yourself, you're engaging yourself in the journey, and you're not letting life pass through you. You're passing through life with your eyes wide open. One other thing is this, is if your journey becomes performative, that you have to perform. And there are two kinds of performance. There are hustlers who hustle to impress themselves. There are hustlers who hustle to impress other people. You did say something about, you read and got a degree in nursing, and you were still not satisfied. Then you realized everybody wanted you to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And you never thought and said to yourself, what do I really want to be? And that's the truth about life. Ask yourself, who are you performing for? Mm-hmm. Ask yourself that. On this journey, if you don't wake up and answer that question, then the journey is going to be wasted, because when you get to the end, the purpose of the journey becomes useless, because you were doing it for either yourself wrongly or for others wrongly. It's okay to perform for others, and it's okay to perform for yourself, but you have to know the level. And we don't have the time to get into all of it, but that's where you find people pleasers, people who go out of their way to do things for everybody, and it stretches them and drains them. And then there are people, there are myself pleasers as well, and myself pleasers are people who have created a personality or an alter personality in themselves that they need to impress. I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this. Right. And that does almost the same thing as pleasing everybody else. Now, there is a measure of both of them, pleasing people and pleasing yourself, that is vital to you finding your purpose or achieving your purpose. For instance, you've got to, in my life, there are people in my life that I have to, that I wake up and the thought of them makes me say to myself, I'm strong. I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep going. My mother, for instance, I was thinking about her a few days ago, and there was a mistake my father had made when he was a young man. And I was faced with making that same mistake. And I know that my mother had been praying about it. She hated, when my father fell into that mistake. And it separated them. It wasn't infidelity or anything, but it was a religious mistake. And I saw myself at the junction of the road, and I could have made a decision that would have taken me down the same mistake my father made. And I was conscious enough to say, no, I'm not doing that mistake.
Yeah.
But the thought of my mother was an extra jolt of strength to say no, because I never wanted to see my mother cry that the man she loved and the son she loved both made one mistake that she never wanted anybody to make.
And
So
go
it's
down that
good.
same path.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's good when you allow people to inspire you or strengthen you. Have a reason why you. That's why they say families are important. By the time a man is married, he takes mental responsibility for his wife and children. He becomes a
Yeah.
protector, a provider. That's why family is important. And for the woman too, the moment a woman is married, has children, she becomes a super nurturer. She biologically has her biological being is fitted to now take care of more than one person. Forgive my French, her breast is bigger because somebody depends on it, her boobs, her
Yeah.
backside is bigger because she's going to carry a lot of her laps are bigger. If you read the Bible, those are the things Sarah complained about. She said, they've grown flat. I don't have, enough flesh in these laps and hands and breasts to
Yeah.
carry a baby. So God gives you grace because you have people that you have to work for. Now, there's a limit, but there's an importance to it. Same for yourself. So if you don't check all of these every day, these are things that when you wake up, they'll just drain you if you don't take full cognizance of it, take full responsibility for the journey and for who can influence your journey. Allow some people to influence it. One huge mistake we make is we're coming to a place where we don't want anybody else to influence our journey, and that's a horrible, horrible place to be. Let
Yes.
people influence your journey. Even haters, allow haters to influence your journey.
I love haters. They're like my favorite. They're like my favorite people in the world because they challenge you. And in my opinion, if you can't handle a hater, then you weren't strong in that foundation to begin with, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
that being said, I know we were talking a little bit about family. I have one last question I would like to ask you. I
Yeah.
would like to know what you'd like to say to our listeners on how to take this purposeful living into every relationship of theirs, whether it's themselves, their kids, their aunts, uncles, whoever, right? In their business. How can they take this purposeful living into these dynamics of their relationships?
One simple advice I'll give everybody is everything around you, everyone around you can be a support towards where you're going. And until you choose, it's like you said earlier on that you like haters. Until you choose that even what they call it, roadkill is a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Until you make that decision, you're going to allow things to interrupt your journey. So I want to say this: the worst thing you can have is unplanned interruptions of your journey. Um, the GPS doesn't know how to calculate it. Unplanned interruptions.
Yeah.
For instance, if you're going somewhere and then you have a flat tire and you pull up and you have to fix your flat tire. When you go back to your GPS will not move. It will tell you it's still 7 hours to get to that place. It was 7 hours, 3 hours ago when you fired that flat tire, and it took 37 hours.
Right.
So it doesn't calculate that. And the truth about it is sometimes we deceive ourselves. We listen only to the GPS. We don't consider that unplanned interruptions, which we allow, change the date. So GPS will tell you 7 hours and then change the time you're going to get there, but it won't tell you that you've wasted 3 hours of your life in an unplanned interruption. So don't allow unplanned interruptions in your life. Don't allow it. Face where you gotta go. Don't hold on to things and people in a way that any accident becomes a destination in your life. No, an accident is an event on the journey. Don't make it a destination. Don't get stalled at an event. Don't pull over and give it 2.5 years of your life. Don't stop and destroy. Don't build your relationships for now. Build your relationships for your tomorrow. You can find a man or a woman for now, but ask yourself, is this person for tomorrow? You can find a job for now. Ask yourself, is this what I want to be doing tomorrow? You can find a house for now. I just finished talking to a guy, and he lives in a hotel. It's one of the cheapest hotel in town. He pays about he pays $20 a day, according to him. Very cheap, and
The Roach Motel.
yeah, the Roach Motel. Not just that, it's the crackhead motel. It's the rundown motel. It's the
Got you.
It's the worst kind of place. And I said to him, this was what attracted us into the discussion. I said to him, because I like catching people with some, funny things. I see a thing about them and I tell them, and they're like, how do you know? So I said to him, you got to a stop and the journey hadn't ended, but you made that stop your final destination. And you keep saying, I'm going to keep going, but your car broke down at that stop. So you built a house at the stop. And he's like, with his mouth open, how do you know? And this guy has a degree in, you won't believe it, computer science, can code, but he got to a place, ran out of money, found this hotel, moved into it. Before you know it, he got a girl who was the next door, living in the next door, got her pregnant, and now they are living together. They are not married. They are thinking of moving out together, but they are both on drugs. They are doing rehabilitation, trying to clean up and drugs. So it is somewhere that he said, I'm just going to get this accommodation until I can move out. And he had a good job. It became a stop. Guess how long he has lived there? Paying $20 a month, $20 a day. Guess how long?
A year.
3.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
3.5 years. He has one child. They have a daughter who is about 2 years old, and they have another child that is coming in about 3 months.
Wow.
Somewhere an interruption became a destination.
Yeah.
Don't ever let that happen in your life, because you focus on today. Wherever you are, remind yourself, be comfortable, but remind yourself, this is not the end. I can't make my decisions based on this place. I can't make my final choices. You know how was that? Is it Jeopardy? They ask you and you tell your answer and you say final, or you have to say this is the final. You can say, but don't say final. Only say final when it is beyond your imagination, when it is further ahead than you ever thought you would get to.
Yeah.
Don't say
there's
final.
always another option, and there's always another path. Yes. I love that. Thank you so much. That was incredibly insightful, and it's been an absolute awesome, badass pleasure to have you with us. And I definitely I took notes, I was like, this is really,
wow, she took notes.
I did. I get really, I take stuff very seriously when, I feel like I need to learn something. I mean, you know what? You're supposed to learn until you're dead. So I'm just continue, I'm like, man, it doesn't matter how many times you learn it, right? Every single time you learn something or hear something, you're supposed to take it in like it's your first time hearing it, because that's how you expand your mind. So thank you so much for expanding my mind and my listeners' minds today. And I will have Mr. Pastor, I will have Pastor Henry's info in the description so that you guys can buy his books, get his audibles, get his songs, do all the things. And you can definitely send your shipments over to me instead of to yourself, Pastor Henry. And I look forward to having you on this podcast again. If, you'll join us, I would totally be down to do that. Yes.
Always a pleasure.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, do all the things. I accept bad comments, good comments, and mediocre comments as well. Have a good rest of your day, and bye.